Today, I'm honored to welcome Gabrielle Grandell to the show. She believes that true healing is not just about fixing the symptoms, but it's about aligning the body, mind, and spirit. Through her own personal struggles and triumphs, she discovered the profound wisdom in God's creation, recognizing the resilience and healing power that He designed us with. With a deep understanding of nutritional biochemistry, the gut microbiome, and functional medicine, Gabrielle integrates faith-based principles with her science-backed health strategies. She empowers individuals to not only heal their bodies, but also reconnect with their purpose, honoring the divine design within us all. If you've ever felt your health struggles were holding you back from the life that you were meant to live, then this conversation will inspire you to trust your body's innate ability to heal and take ownership of your wellness journey. You're listening to What the Gut, a functional medicine and holistic health podcast for busy women who are ready to take charge of their health without the overwhelm. I'm Allison, your host, a double board certified family nurse practitioner specializing in functional medicine, here to help you decode the gut hormone connection and finally get the answers you've been searching for. In this space, we're cutting through the confusion and diving deep into holistic wellness, because feeling your best is not just about another diet or quick fix. It's about understanding your body, healing from the inside out, and making sustainable changes that fit into your real, busy life. From gut health to energy struggles, hormonal imbalances to sustainable weight loss, I'm bringing you practical strategies, expert insight, and real talk that will help you thrive, not just survive. So if you're ready to finally feel good in your body again, hit that subscribe button and let's do this together. Quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and empowering purposes only, and it is not intended as medical advice. Be sure to consult with your personal healthcare provider for personal recommendations. Welcome to What the Gut, where we take control of our health one episode at a time. Hey, Gabrielle, welcome to What the Gut. I have been looking forward to this conversation because I know that we have so much in common, and you also integrate God's design into your work. I know that's just going to speak to so many women who feel stuck in survival mode. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to it too. So glad we could connect today.
I know. So tell me just a little bit about how you became the gut goddess and what got you into what you do now.
Yeah, I really fell in love with nutrition and God's design and nature and the complexities and intricacies and the beauty of all of God's creation. And that's what got me into nutrition because it's just all the food is so beautiful, all the textures, all the tastes, all the colors. And when I started to learn what it really could do for the body, it's just really fascinating. So that's what led me into studying nutrition. And then I started to learn about how healing it really was. And then learning about all of the chemistry and energetics and everything that plays into that is just really fascinating. I always knew I wanted to help people. I just wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I worked for a while in the hospital doing clinical nutrition, and there was some.
That's a whole, yeah. I mean, I worked in the hospital setting too as a nurse, and while nutrition was not like my main focus, all of the patients had the nutritionist come and speak to them. And just from what I see, like you're so limited. You're so
Yeah.
limited on what you can do. But it's like these people are so sick, and also just the education you can provide. It's like they're not really at their best to absorb all that education either.
Right.
That's just a really hard situation for the nutritionist.
It really was. And when you're expected to see 20 some odd people and spend 10, 15 minutes or something with them, there's no way to possibly be able to make a real impact.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's very limited. The science is so outdated in the hospital.
Yeah.
I need to say that, at least when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah.
And so it was all about calorie counts and low fat diets, and you would see the families bring in all kinds of
Yes.
junk and stuff. It's so frustrating and hard. And like you said, they're not really in the place they just want to get better. They don't really want to tell their story so much and really get into it.
Yeah.
Overconsumption, malnutrition is the theme. And then surgery.
And so where are you located, or where did you work in the hospital?
Yeah, Baylor University Medical Center
Okay.
in downtown Dallas.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm in Mississippi, so we're both in the South.
Yeah.
I love that you brought this up because this just isn't something that I've really discussed with people before, but it's one of those things I could get on a soapbox about. But just the nutrition in the hospital. So when I worked in the hospital, I worked in cardiovascular medical surgical, and especially Mississippi, like heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, like it's all connected. And that's what the patient population was. They're all diabetics, like the majority of them. And there's so many complexities that go into nutrition that as a diabetic or somebody with heart issues, like you really need to know if you're wanting to better your health and outcomes of healing and all of that. And you're so limited. And even as the nurse, I just remember these patients, like if anybody's ever stayed in the hospital, like you don't get rest. The nurse is in there, the doctor's in there, the PT's in there, the preacher comes in there, admissions comes in there to verify your insurance. Like it's always something. You don't get a break. And so I'm sure like you get tired of telling people the same thing over and over again. Like you just want to rest and heal and deal with whatever's going on. But so much of like whenever you need to heal, like you've really got to focus on like your protein intake, for example, making sure you're getting the right vitamins and nutrients. And it's so hard because sometimes you might be there talking to your patient, but their family's not there to hear the conversation. And then, like you said, the family brings in fried chicken and sweets. And this is why their blood sugar's in the 300s. Like, some of this is the problem. And yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah. So I'm already like, okay, we have more in common than what I thought at first. Yeah. Like we could talk about that forever. So,
Like the parenteral nutrition, the TPN, like that it's just a travesty, really.
I want to ask you this. So,
logistics and stuff involved in the formulations, but
yes. So I understand, like, for some people, it's like survival. It's just survival mode. If they have the TPN nutrition or even like a PEG tube or G tube. But I heard recently, and this was really shocking to me, and I don't know if it's true or not, but a lot of the PEG tube nutrition, liquid nutrition like that, it's really manufactured by like Nestle.
yeah.
So like the nutritional content is like not great, which is so sad.
It is not. Yeah. Yeah. It's very bad. And yeah, I recently had a really up close personal experience with this with my mother, who was in the hospital for colon cancer, and going to battle about all these holistic ways of healing. And again, that's a long story, but she had to have TPN, and it's just the quality is just so poor. And there's really not a lot that the dietitians can even do about it. And they're trying to also defend what they're doing. And
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate and blessed to have had that experience and be in that season. I don't think I would be where I am today without that, but I'm also so glad that I don't do that anymore.
Yes.
That I'm able to really actually help people tap into the healing power of their environment and food and their thoughts and all of those things that doesn't happen in the hospital.
I know.
Not a place to get really, like, it doesn't create any health.
Right.
You and I both had that background before getting into the functional medicine.
Yeah.
So
I think that's important to point out too, because I think sometimes people hear, oh, you do functional medicine, holistic medicine, integrative medicine. That doesn't work, things like that. And it's like, there's a time and a place for sure. And conventional medicine, modern medicine is amazing. It has saved my life. Like it is amazing. But people don't realize too, no, the system failed us in some way for this outcome. There's a time and a place, and it's got to be holistic. Yes, you do need to be able to go to the ER if you cut your arm off. There's a time and a place, but yeah, I think
praise God for the surgeons and for the medications that helped my mom through her colon cancer. But there's not enough talk about what led to this. How could this be prevented, and how can we heal faster getting out of this? But yeah, I totally agree.
A lot of it too just makes me think of
we all.
Right. And It makes me think of, like, preventative medicine, like, these days, whenever you hear about, "Oh, go to your, like, wellness visit or preventative appointment,"
Yeah.
or there's, like, free screenings of things that they have for, like, heart issues and things like this and breast cancer screenings, and some of that's okay, some of that's great, but it's like, we need to take a step back, like, are we really preventing things, or are we exposing more people to unnecessary radiation? There's different ways to prevent things, just
Mhm.
the view of preventative medicine in my mind is very different than what it appears to be to, I think, projected to society.
Yeah. No, I totally
Yeah,
agree.
it's
Totally.
interesting. And so I know, Gabrielle, you believe that healing is about really aligning the body, mind, and spirit, which I just love. I'm curious, how did your journey really lead you to this realization?
That's kinda what I was sharing before, just understanding the complexities of how I think it was all perfectly designed, right? And I think about how it's just so fascinating, the science behind everything and learning and talking with people and seeing how we're all so unique and all the plants have a purpose. It's all just it's really beautiful, and but it goes beyond more than just what we eat,
Yeah.
right? It's what we think about, it's what we believe, it's all the inputs that we have, and started to see that there's not a lot of it's hard to really trust in your body when you don't really understand the how
What's
it
going on?
works together. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that started to talk to more people about their emotional things they were going through or mental complexities that they had. When I started to dig a little bit deeper into their life, they didn't really have a spiritual practice. Not everybody, that's not a hard and fast rule or anything, but I saw that there was like almost a
And it's like the whole body healing process is a lot slower if there's not like that spiritual aspect going
yeah.
on.
And for me too, there's I didn't always have a strong faith. I wasn't really brought up in church. It wasn't until I was an adult that I found Christ and I found the Christ within.
Yeah.
And it really changed my life and it continues to change my life. Like when I have down times and hard times and things, it's really encouraging to remember, right, that how it all works together and that it's all working for my good. And
Yeah.
I feel really empowered when I
Yeah.
remember that, and I can encourage others that, that they're not alone and that their body is and really
Right.
created for purpose and for
Right.
life, to live our life. It's not about being afraid of death, it's about inviting life,
Yeah. I
you
love
know?
that. And our bodies do know what to do.
They do.
But I think we as humans in general get so bogged down with not just stopping and listening to our bodies,
Yeah.
but a symptom appears and we rush straight to the doctor to suppress it. And we don't realize that's what we're doing then. But our
Mhm.
bodies are trying to tell us something. I hear a lot. I've got a lot of friends with little kids. I've got little kids, and they'll text me and say, "Oh, my son has a fever and it's nothing crazy." But they'll say, "Oh, what do I need to do? Do I just need to give him Tylenol?" There's a few other factors that go into play. And I'm like, that's his body trying to fight off something. If it's a low grade fever, don't suppress it. Let
Yeah.
it heal. Like, just let his body do what it's supposed to. And that's just one example. And I've been guilty of it myself in the past too. Like, we just, as people, like, one thing happens and we react to it instead of just like listening to our body and saying, okay, what's going on? What's trying to happen here? Is this really an emergency or is this okay? Yeah.
I think there's both sides of the coin, like, the way I grew up, we didn't go to the doctor. And fortunately, we didn't have a lot of illness either,
Right.
but so I don't know if it would have been different had we all been sick.
Right.
But my point about that is that either way, we're either outsourcing it, right, to someone else, like a doctor or physician, or for the people that don't go to the doctor, then they're also not always like you said, they're not always listening and seeing it as a sacred kind of messenger
Mhm.
And it makes them think, okay, their body's like maybe working against them. And do we really have the ability to heal on our own? So anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's really important to think about, that it's switching that lens from that our body's like in conflict, right?
Mhm.
To how can we be curious about what's going on?
And
And
really taking responsibility for our own health and
ah,
not putting it in the hands of somebody else. I think that it's absolutely necessary at times if you have no idea what's going on to seek help,
sure.
but find like a provider or coach, somebody who is going to be an advocate for you too. I know I worked in urgent care, like in the urgent care setting for a while whenever I first started my career as a nurse practitioner. And that was the only job I could find. And it was unfortunate because so many people, I started coughing and sneezing yesterday, and then they come see you. And if they don't leave with a prescription, it's like a disappointment because they
Mhm.
came there for something. They came there for you to do something. And part of me is, yes, that makes sense. You go to the doctor because you want something done. But the other part of me was like, okay, this has only been going on for a day. If there's no other symptoms, it varies case by case, but it's like you need to let your body just figure out what's going on. What's causing all of this? Do we really need to just give you a medication? There's a time and a place, like I said. But I think just becoming your own advocate of your health and really taking responsibility for it yourself and finding somebody who, if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to become independent of standing your ground in your health, find a provider who will help you do that and
Yeah,
educate you on what's going on in your body and what's been going on and what your labs are really saying, things
yeah.
like that.
Why? The
Yeah,
question was why, not
exactly.
not what is it, and then let's suppress it.
Exactly. And I know so many people, they feel disconnected from their bodies and their health. I'm curious, Gabrielle, what are some first steps that someone can take, in your opinion, to really start trusting their body and healing?
That's a really good question. I think it's just about slowing down and really being present and just asking the body and telling the body, I'm listening, right? Hand to the heart. What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And trying to tap into it, it's okay to be uncomfortable for some time in your life, right? I know
Yeah.
we don't want to be, but it's okay to be. And then what is the lesson? What can we learn from that experience? And not everybody is trained in health or anatomy and physiology or anything, so it can be a scary place. And so that's like what you said, you wanna seek out somebody that can help answer some of those questions for you. But ultimately, I really believe we have a lot of answers. If
Yeah.
we just slow down enough. We might not know exactly, like, the biochemistry of it or something like that, but we know, okay, I have this rash on my skin or I have this stomach pain. What are some things I'm doing in my life that maybe are not serving? Or am I missing something? I want to explore that and really just create that safe space for ourselves to
Yeah.
be able to acknowledge it's not
Right.
we don't have to get overwhelmed with it. We can say, "Okay, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna trust. I think and I'm gonna do something about it, right? I'm gonna be an advocate. I'm gonna try to learn. I'm gonna try to partner with somebody where I can figure this out." But I think so many times we've ignored those signals, and that trust erodes trust in our body's abilities and our own
Yeah.
capabilities. Yep.
Yeah. And I hope that people listening are encouraged by that because I think back to my own health journey, and whenever I first started to really like work in the healthcare realm, like that wasn't my original goal when I went to college. I was an art major first. So it's like I had no intention of studying chemistry or biology or the human body or any of these things. And so whenever I did, I also started having my own health issues, ironically. Like they just really all resurfaced and I realized this isn't normal. But even people like you and I who are experts in these fields, or we're constantly learning, but we've been there too, where it's like we didn't trust our bodies. Like we didn't have answers, whether it was for us or a family member. And we had to get to where we are now because we had to just take a step back and say, okay, all the answers are right here. We just have to find them. And sometimes that does take like extra outside support from like a coach or a provider. But I think just having the courage to even ask for help,
Yeah.
like even like outside of just that first little bubble, I think I went to so many different providers who I worked with, who were coworkers, who were just very reputable providers, and asked why. Like, why is this happening? What's happening? And nobody could tell me. And that was such a letdown because it's like I was a part of this bubble. I worked in this field too, and I wasn't getting answers. And so realizing that I can't just put my health in the hands of other people, I needed to take responsibility for it myself, really learn about nutrition, things like that, and really like focus on my spirituality, my sleep habits, my movement, all of these different things. That's what worked. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
lasted, not just this quick fix band-aid of going and saying, what's wrong? Okay, tell me, and then I'll fix it. It's not that easy.
And then talking, having conversation or relationship with the ultimate coach, right?
Yes.
God
Yes.
is gonna help us and bring people into our lives that are going to be able to support us, guide
Right.
us, right?
Yeah.
Like for better or for worse. Sometimes
Yeah.
it seems like maybe you have some not so great experiences, but then it leads you to a better experience. And what did you gain from that?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Gabrielle, the kind of people that usually come to you and that you work with, what does that look like? What kind of people do you usually serve?
So any kind of digestive disorder. So, IBS, IBD, EOE, any kind of, and they don't really have a diagnosis necessarily, but they have the bloating, the constipation, the diarrhea, the pain, the heartburn, all that kind of stuff. I've also seen a lot of people with fatty liver challenges because there's a strong interplay there. I also see autoimmune people, less of them these days, but motos and MS and RA and different things because
Yeah.
the gut is a huge piece of autoimmunity. And then there's a subcategory of people that really just want to be proactive and preventative with health, but mostly it's people that are having these different digestive concerns or even acne or eczema, psoriasis, stuff, rosacea, that also has a lot to do with the gut and the immune system and their
Yeah.
nutrition. And yeah, it's people that don't want to be on medication
Yeah.
necessarily too. They either want to get off their medication or they don't want to start it if they don't have to. They'd rather come after it from a more holistic approach. And then once we dig into everything, there's often a nervous system component and that's where some of the spirituality comes into play because I think having a spiritual connection, you feel safer. You feel more
Yes.
confident. I don't know how to really articulate that better than to say it that way.
It's just like the magic that the Holy Spirit does. It's just, it heals you.
No.
But I want to say too, I'm seeing a lot more patients myself who are wanting to come to see me for a more holistic approach to being preventative too, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Like I'm seeing that so much more, and people who want to get off these medications or either want to avoid having to be on certain medications. And I just love that because I think even if you end up saying have to be on a medication for a very long time, the biggest thing I project to my patients is, okay, but what are the pros and cons? If we're going to be on this medication long term because it makes you a better person, okay, but what are we depleting? Are we depleting any nutrients? What's it doing to us that we also need to keep an eye out for? And I just love that. I love seeing more people be preventative like that and proactive. But I was going to ask, like, what are some of the biggest root causes that you see as far as with digestive issues that people overlook a lot.
I just want to piggyback on what you were saying. The other piece of there's people that want to be proactive and preventative in all the things that we just mentioned, but it's also, you probably see this too, that there's people that want to know why. They want to get to the root cause. Causes, it's usually not just one thing.
Yeah.
But so those are also the kind of people that come to see me, is that they're tired of conventional 10 minutes with the doc, basic labs, nobody's talking about their life or what they're doing every day.
It just it blows my mind.
Yeah.
I have to chime in on that. So I said I worked in urgent care for a little bit, and then they needed me to fill in doing wellness visits at one point because one of the other providers went out on maternity leave. And I was like, okay, I knew that we would butt heads about a lot of that because I just was not agreeable with a lot of these things. And so I said, okay, though, but I had to fight so much against, I'm not seeing 20 patients today. Like, I'm going to take my time with people, especially if they are coming here to see me one time a year, like for a wellness visit. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. The clinic managers, the CEO of the clinics, like, I had to talk to them and I was like, this is not okay. Like, I'm the provider. This is going to go how I say it's going to go. And it was all about money. And it's just, I get that it's a business. I do. But like, you can't, why are we making a business off of people getting sicker and not getting better? That's not right. Come on. And I remember too, just speaking of like the labs, of course, we just would run what insurance would cover.
Yeah.
But becoming certified in functional lab work for me opened my eyes, and I was able to see a lot more and read a lot more into what those basic labs meant. But what blew my mind is how much lack of knowledge on these things that other providers had. Because if I went to another provider to consult with them on this is what's going on and this is what I see in their labs, every single time I would get, oh, Allison, that stuff I don't. Okay. I'm glad I do, but what's happening to your patients though?
So lacking.
It's just, they want to make sure you don't have a disease. That's it. But not preventing you from actually getting one.
Yeah. How many times have you had conversations with patients that are like, how come my doctor didn't do this? Or how come I didn't get this looked at?
I'm going to write a book one day. I am. Because it blows my mind. And so much of this stuff too is just, to me, like common, basic, like morally, ethically correct things that you should do with a patient. Like, it blows my mind. It really does. I remember having one patient who had like a paper of questions that she brought in for her wellness visit. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I just have so many questions. I'm so sorry. She was so apologetic. And I was like, this is what I'm here for. Like, let me answer these questions. I love this. This is what I signed up for. And it's like, how many other people are there that are suffering the same way and looking for answers, or maybe don't have the courage to ask because they're too afraid to ask the questions because their providers, I don't have time.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
or
so
gaslight
unfortunate.
them, or they make them feel some kind of way about, being an advocate and trying to drill down to things. That happens so many times too. I'll even suggest that we have a practice conversation and I'll pretend to be their doctor and they can be them. And then how would they even articulate these questions and ask them so they feel more confident and comfortable? That is common. It's like they don't know what to ask. They don't know how to stand up for themselves. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but none of them helpful.
I think that there's like a misconception too that your doctors, whether it's just general internal medicine or a specialty, that they know everything about that.
That's true.
Because we're always learning more. And as we know, with like functional medicine, holistic medicine, integrative medicine, like everything's connected. So it's great that we have specialists. We need those. But if they don't know enough about another body system that's intricately connected with it, then you're probably missing a huge piece. And I would have patients bring their children in and ask questions, and they're like, what's happening? What's going on? And I always would tell them, okay, I might have the book knowledge, right? I went to school for this. I might have the book knowledge, but you also are with your child every day. You know them so much better than I do. So let's work on this together and figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's like, also parents, be an advocate for your child. Don't just, I don't know. I could go on and on.
Yes, that's so true. Encouraging them to awaken to that part of them, right?
Yeah.
And realize, yeah, they're their own best expert.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
if these providers would just drop the ego and say, okay, yeah, I didn't study this, or I'm not
Right.
versed in this, and I want you to get the help that you need. So maybe you need to see this person, XYZ. Definitely don't
Yeah.
discount nutrition and discount lifestyle. That's something I run into a lot. I know this is not like a complaining podcast or something, but I just know that we
I
probably share a lot of these
Yeah.
frustrations. I want to be respectful to their providers, but when they ask me those questions about how come you're talking to me about my diet and my lifestyle, and no one ever for 10 years has talked to me about that or dismissed that. Like, my answer is always, I don't think it's that they don't have your best interest in mind. I think they do. I think that's not their skill set. They don't,
Exactly.
well, they don't learn about this. They learn about pharmacology, they learn about surgery, and they're really experts in that area.
Right.
What I went to school to learn. So this is how I help people and support people.
And I think to that point, it's really important to just, even as providers, to have this network of other people,
Yeah,
because even
makes
if we're
sense.
in functional medicine, there are some people who are so much better at like hormones, so much
Yeah,
better at gut health, so much better at treating like environmental toxins.
yeah.
But having people we can refer people to, because we're not the experts in, say, that specific field, but we know it's very intricately connected. That's what's so important too. And I think even conventional medicine providers, like you said, I definitely feel, I don't think that anybody's out there trying to purposely do anything wrong, but that's all that they know. And I was trained in traditional medicine when I went to nurse practitioner school. That's what I did first. And so I can say from experience, they didn't teach you this and this. Like, I
Yeah,
had to go back to school to learn all these other things because there was a huge piece missing. But some people just don't know what they don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just, people just need to be more aware and feel, I hope people listen and just feel encouraged and empowered to seek the right answers from the right people in the right way. Like we were saying, there's a right time to go to this provider, but you do what you feel is best, but it's be as confident as you can in doing that. I just think that's
Yep,
important. So,
it is. And the way it was all created, right? Like the first line therapy should be thinking about what am I doing every day? What am I
yeah.
thinking about? What are my inputs, right? That's going to then determine my output, meaning my symptoms or how I'm expressing health or not.
Yes. It's interesting you're talking about that too near the beginning of our conversation. And for a while there, I was just like in this rut where I was like, I'm just like not as optimistic and as happy as I have been. What's going on? And I realized, like, when I was doing my workouts and just throughout the day, the podcast I was listening to like true crime stuff, which I love. I love mystery stuff, true crime stuff, but I really got into this one podcast, which is so good. But it was a lot of, obviously, crime. And I was like, that is just not really feeding my soul the way that I need it to. And I realized that was really like impacting me. And it's
Yeah,
crazy, but that was it.
it's in there.
I was like, I got to take a break. I got to take a break from the true crime. But it's your input and whether you realize it or not.
Yeah,
It's the
totally.
people you surround yourself with, the things you listen to, if you go outside, things like that.
Yeah, and so I think your question was something about what are some of the common like misconceptions or things that people don't really think about when it comes to their health. And those are some of the things, right? It's
Right.
environment. I didn't
Right.
mean this phrase, but it's like somebody said, you can't heal in the environment that you got sick in. So if you're
Yeah.
listening to violence and murder, or you have toxic relationships, right? Or yeah, you're breathing in air or drinking unclean water or any of those things. We think about our food. I think a lot of people recognize food has a big
Yeah. I
play.
think you're being more aware of that for sure.
Yeah, more and more, but it's also, okay, what is the environment that I'm eating this food? right? How do I feel when I eat it? What are my thoughts around my body when I'm consuming it? Do I see the making of the food as a stress? Am I nervous about the family dinner, right? But
Yeah.
do I have enough money to budget for these kinds of healthier, more whole food options?
Yeah.
Um, and just the narratives that we create around those things, I think is really important to talk through and recognize. And then with all those things is again exposures, other exposures in the environment that we don't recognize, but they
Right.
all add up. And none of these, if there is any testing done on any of this stuff from any of these companies, it's super limited and it's not in in tandem. It's not the cumulative effects of these things. It's, oh, this little bit is safe, but if you put it in connection with all of these other toxins that we're taking in or exposed to,
Right.
has anybody ever actually looked into that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. It's all very interesting.
Yeah.
But it is amazing though once you heal and get past like this hump of just feeling terrible and realize the capabilities that your body really has, you know,
Yes.
and that you were made to heal. Your body was
Absolutely.
designed so interestingly. I mean, everything just I don't know. It's all so fascinating how it's connected and how God made our bodies and we just need to let it do its thing sometimes.
Yeah, and I was giving those examples, and when I'm working with clients, it's often a negative kind of conversation about those different topics, or can be like a negative mindset. But like what you're saying is, how can we shift that into gratitude, into gratefulness, and seeing how everything is can work together and how we can improve, and we do have opportunities, and every day is a new opportunity. Every moment is a new choice, right? And
Yeah.
just want to love ourselves enough to want to make those choices and come back even when things are hard and people pull us in a lot of directions, or different things get us down or depressed. We can always come back to that truth, which
Yeah.
is, I don't think faith and science are separate. I think they're
Right.
both a really incredible truth of what's available for us and our lives and our bodies. And it's our birthright
Yeah.
to live in a body that we love and have a life that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And so we can live our purpose. And so we got talking to clients about what is their purpose and what does excite them. How do you have joy in your life? How to turn that meal into a joyful.
And they probably never a lot of times I see patients who've never been asked these things or never
Yeah.
thought about them.
Yeah.
So,
No, because it's just go. Society is pushing us to really
get things done.
performers, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's the younger generations just made me think about something. The younger generations that I see more so, I think, than the older ones, it's like they think something is wrong with them if they feel sad or if they feel angry or something like that. And I want to encourage them that it's a human experience.
Yeah.
We're going to have days when we don't feel great in our bodies, or we have symptoms, or it's hard, or the things that you've committed to feel like a big struggle. But there's so much opportunity when you can just sit with yourself for a moment and just remember all of the things. I know that's kind of cliche, just have gratitude, but gratitude changes everything.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. It makes me think of Noah when he was on the ark, and it's like all those days he was there and like I'm sure he was working and tending to the animals some, but it's like he didn't have much else to go do. But also what blows my mind is that that was before God said we could eat meat. And so he lived off of vegetables this whole time. And
Yeah.
he lived, I can't remember exactly, but he lived to be like 100 something. And I'm like, what kind of vegetables were those? That's what I want. just being with your family and some animals and having these vegetables and oh my, just be, sounds lovely.
Well, yeah, it works, right?
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't
Gabrielle, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today? This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just to encourage them that the healing doesn't have to be hard, and we can create what we want in our life. And we're never alone to
Yeah.
to do that. And yeah, I welcome everyone to explore what's possible for them in their life.
Yeah. I love that. Now, where can my listeners find you if they want to follow you on social media and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, I love that. My name is Gabrielle Grandell, and that is my website, gabriellegrandell.com. And it's my handle on all the social media platforms as well.
Okay. And I'll be sure to link that in the show notes for those listening so you can go follow Gabrielle and say hello and let her know that you enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Thank you so much for being here today. This was so much fun.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on today's episode of What the Gut. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I hope you're walking away with insights that bring you closer to feeling your absolute best. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would take a moment to leave a review. It helps more people like you find this podcast and get the answers that they need. And don't forget to hit that subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Find me at Allison Gets Well for daily gut health tips, behind the scenes, and more ways to support your wellness journey. I would also love to hear what topics you want covered in future episodes. If you have a burning question or a guest that you'd love to hear from, shoot me an email at hello@allisongetswell.com. If you're ready for real personalized support on your health journey, check out my one-on-one coaching program at allisongetswell.com. Let's get you feeling amazing from the inside out. Until next time, stay curious, nourish your body, and take care of your gut. Catch you soon.